Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some relationship stories. If you do love a relationship story, why not consider hitting that like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And it's New Year's Eve, so a huge happy new year to you. I hope you have a wonderful year ahead of you. Whatever you're thinking of doing, I really wish you the best. And let's jump in to today's first story. And today's first story comes from X Huckingit, who says, "Can I be pushed into a joint account against my wishes?" And it does follow with a couple of little updates. As the title says, "I'm worried I'm being pushed into a joint bank account against my judgment." Sorry if I appear to go off on a tangent at first, but it's relevant to my concerns. So over a year ago, I was pregnant with my daughter, who will be 1 in a week's time. Prior to living in our place, me and my SO were living at his mum's for 2 years. We found the perfect place, perfect area. We also checked it would be covered by local housing allowance before we inquired about it. Just to be safe, even though we both worked at the time and could cover rent. We're about to settle with the landlord when we get a call saying he was rejecting us as my partner had a CCJ on his account. SO was shocked about this, so we dug a little deeper to discover that his mother, due to bad credit, had used his details in order to set up an account with an online catalogue and not paid the account. So the CCJ was for £450. We confronted her. Her reply was that she bought things for my SO from there, which is why it was in his name. But her bank details, email address and everything else. We explained this situation to the landlord of our prospective property and he agreed that if we could evidence the CCJ being paid off, we could still have the place. My SO's mother didn't have the money to pay it off, although later I found out she could have as she bought my SO's Xbox Series X, also £450. So feeling like it was the only option, I told her I could use my personal savings to pay it, but as it wasn't something my SO did knowingly, with a baby close to being born, that I need the money back. She never thanked me, just ignored me and walked off whenever it was mentioned. When we move in, we end up in immediate financial difficulties. Due to COVID, I was made redundant and my partner was furloughed. I mentioned that we should talk to his mum about paying something of my savings back, as even a bit would help us. But he told me he believed she was never going to pay it back, so I should just leave it. Fast forward to this week, me and my SO have been having arguments about money and finances as his hours have been cut to 10 a week and due to a health emergency I had after the birth of my daughter. I was in hospital an extended amount of time. I've been cautious about applying for work as health-wise I'm vulnerable to COVID now and had the shield when I got home from the hospital. This last year I've had UC, Universal Credit, as my income and have used this to get all the groceries, my share of the bills and currently doing all the rent, never really having a penny to spare on myself. And my partner, often once he has paid his bills, has spent money on whatever he likes, which admittedly is sometimes things for me, but not the stuff I'd choose. And I'd honestly prefer if he had helped with the groceries or bought things for our daughter. He's bought her one small toy and a little jacket over this time, so I can be a little selfish and buy something I would like occasionally. A few weeks ago, I said I was going into town as we needed groceries. He said that's good, I can join him at the bank and he's opening a joint bank account. This felt pressured as I didn't feel on this occasion that I was given a chance for a discussion or to think, nor did I feel there was any suggestion it was a choice. Thankfully, my previous debit card had broken, and my bank had added details of my new card to my online account so I could use Google Pay. So I was able to use the lack of a card at the moment as an excuse to put him off. I asked on the way back what would he have done if I hadn't have been going to town as well. And he told me that he would have gone and seen if the bank would have set up a joint account without me. I told him I was really angry he would set up an account behind my back. He said he wouldn't have done it, but no other reason to ask if they would. Yesterday, we had a horrific argument and he asked his mum round to mediate. I also felt pressured by her to open a joint account. I suggested I was maybe open to one where we both transfer set amounts each money to cover household expenses, but was told no, everything goes into this account. My SO and her seemed really determined on this, so I agreed for the sake of peace. I'd said originally that I would go for this once the money for the CCJ was paid back, so I could have a little emergency expense for me and the baby in my account for worse off months. But it was suggested, if we're drawing a line in the sand from yesterday, that the money for the CCJ should be forgotten too, which I wouldn't agree to. To clarify a few things, the reason I don't want a joint account are: number 1, my partner got a credit card a while back for emergencies. Needless to say, it didn't go on emergencies and he bought himself new games, etc. But a couple of loads of groceries too. He's never shown me a statement for how he maxed it, but I kept a mental note of what I knew he spent on it, and it doesn't add up at all. 2, they say it means we can both have eyes open, as it were, into each other's expenses. But as said, credit card would be paid from this account. My SO would have this to use without my eyes seeing, and I think that's unfair and suspicious. 3, his mother suggested we only get £20 to ourselves a month each, which is actually fine, but as I said above, my partner still has more than he can hide from me. After a year of not being able to spend on myself while he did, £20 feels like a fob off without the $450 back, when I'm probably being an arsehole with that one, to be fair. 4, as my partner's wages are low, he's not paying anything into the household after his bills at the moment, although I asked him to start chipping in with groceries and bits and pieces. He's been telling me what he's getting every month, mainly so he doesn't pay into the house, but it helps me budget ahead so I can use his wages to estimate what universal credit we will get. Last month he lied by £100. He said it was due to my birthday, and I told him that I would have understood that. It was the lying I was objecting to. He accused me of accessing his bank account to check up on him, until I showed him I could see it on our statement, and he asked me why I was even looking at the universal credit statement. 5, I feel I'm not being given a choice, which makes me not want it more. I want to genuinely consider it over a few weeks without being pestered, as I want to consider not just the short term, but the long term impact on both of our financials due to credit histories getting influenced by each other. And I haven't told them this, but my credit score is actually okay these days and want to keep it that way, in case of emergencies. I've got some time for now. Luckily they agreed we would wait until my new bank card arrives to set up the account, so I can put it off. Luckily my bank card arrived a week or so ago. Fortunately I caught it first as I was going to the shop, so I pocketed it and gave it to a friend who's familiar with the situation, whom I trust, and he's put it away hidden out the house. It's not activated yet, and I know he wouldn't try anyway. Am I right to be concerned that an account I didn't agree to will be created behind my back? I'm concerned if my partner had got a hold of my bank card and gave it to his mum, he could have gone down there and made one. Is there any way in which I can protect my accounts? I know the universal credit is his money too, so a joint account would be fair, but I am severely uncomfortable with all of it getting paid directly in there. Can anyone please advise what steps I could take legally to protect myself till I've made my own decision? Now, as I said, we have got an update on this one, but I found this post really unsettling. You know, the way he gets his mother involved to help with this situation, to mediate the argument about their finances like that, and to insist that it's a joint bank account and pretty much giving OP no choice, manipulating her to have this joint bank account. And I understand many people have joint bank accounts, many people have, separate accounts too, and whatever works for your relationship is absolutely fine. But to pressure someone in the way that's happened here, especially with your mother, that weird ass dynamic that's going on, where he gets his mother involved to come in and manipulate the situation as well, when she already owes them money because she gets herself into debt as well. It's very, very strange to me. But as always, we're going to cover a couple of the comments, then we're going to move on to the updates as well. Ever After says, your partner and his mum have shown that they are sketchy and secretive over anything financial. Do not open a joint account with this person. This sounds like financial coercion. Getting his mum over to pressure you, surprising you with opening a joint account, etc. All Things Scary says, contact your bank and say that your partner is wanting to open a joint account without your permission. OP replies saying thank you. Others have said the same, so I will definitely do this. Do you know what happens from that point? Do the bank put a block on any new accounts made in my name? Can I get them to request if it's my name being used that I have to supply photo ID? And whilst I won't read them all out, there's also a few comments from OP that's very, very similar to that, asking questions about, how banks work and stuff like that. And I know lots of people don't know about banks, but it just sort of gave me a feeling, and again, I could be totally wrong, that OP's a bit alone, and maybe this sort of stuff has been happening, the mum and the son pairing up to advise, air quotes, their relationship and what they should be doing, so OP doesn't really get to experience that. And again, I'm just reaching out here, and it was just based off of a few of the comments I read. Mekity Moo says, I suggest that you open a bank account at another bank and then close the account that you have at the bank which your partner also uses. This makes him harder to force a joint account by using existing accounts as a way in. Be aware, some banks are owned by the same people. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I seem to remember that the Bank of Scotland may be a part of the same group as another bank. Nationwide are independent, I think, and the Co-op, but I will double check that. Even if there are issues about credit scores, I believe most banks have a basic account, though you have to ask them to find out about it. Good luck. Father Son Holy Toe says there's something deeply creepy about a parent and offspring teaming up to co-abuse the offspring's spouse. What a disturbing dynamic. Wisebat replies to that saying, this is the slimiest, creepiest instance of financial abuse I've ever seen. Just the notion that Mummy Dearest has said OP is putting the foot down and regaining control as a negative just rubs me completely the wrong way. Then the nerve to try and flip it like OP is the one who's financially abusing her spouse. Hope she gets her and LO out, and there's probably some reference to the update there as well, so you get a little taste of what's going to happen. A new X says, man, this hits somewhat close to home. My parents are getting divorced and money was a major factor. Mum got him off the ground with her money, yet every property had to be in his name and the money must be in one pile. Also, his mother was scheming with him about money and other crap. It took Mum 30 years to finally have enough and see him for the monster he is and leave. I'm glad OP took much less than that, although I was hoping they had no kids. Narcissists are a plague. So now we're going to move on to the update to see what happens next. So I posted a while ago about my SO and his mother's attempt to push me into a joint bank account. I'm afraid the update isn't the happiest. After the post I did go protect my bank account, have secured mine and my little one's credit files, and have been planning to leave or get SO out. In the meantime, arguments have continued on and on. I secured a job in order to help finances, also helped me get enough in terms of finances to leave / to help when having to change circumstances on universal credit. I have been pushed but not agreed to, given over half of the universal credit when my wages start appearing, which isn't going to happen. So had to go down to my new job for an hour or so today, and on return went to pick up the baby and helped her tidy up a few things. By mistake I picked up SO's phone. We have the same phone and case, and thought it was mine, and I confess when I noticed it was his I did unlock it. I know this is wrong. He has a secret chat on WhatsApp with his mother. Shocker, and it's only about one topic, me. It's the most disgusting, hateful thing I have witnessed. So in this chat there is talk between them every time I leave the house, in which I spot that my SO has called Universal Credit in order to split the payments behind my back. I don't think he was able to though. Probably as he is currently receiving a wage. However, this is not the point. He continues to lie about finances, having bought games and told me his mum bought it for him, and in this chat they talk about the fact that this is a lie and the money came from our household budget again. He went to the pub on Friday with family. He tried to ask me to come as well, when I had a 1-year-old child with us. I said no. There'd been a match in town that day and we wouldn't be there until past 8, not appropriate for a baby. Although I reasonably asked if they wanted to see LO, which I assume is little one, could they please think of an alternative plan? Just know mother-in-law lives very close to that pub, but there was adamant refusal. We will be in the pub if we want to. The only reason it seems as they wanted me there was a public lynching. Otherwise it was just saying how awful I am that I was unresponsive and such the other day. I'd been up with the baby all night, it was late and I was knackered. That there's no reason I should get the nice things I want. Everything I want together is cheaper than any of his consoles we are paying off from our household budget, and also making comments of she's putting her foot down, regaining control, purely as a negative thing and it needs to be nipped in the bud. He's making accusations now against me for economic abuse, based on me apparently having all the money. I don't. He has his wages, a minimum $400 a month. $200 a month is going on his credit card, $100 on his consoles. He's still spending on things for himself, and him and his mother in this talk do not seem to think I have any need of luxuries, and want him to have money as the groceries I buy are apparently not good enough. His mother has encouraged him to hide documents from me they found in my emergency bag. She's making him make a log of all my behaviour, as you can guarantee she's doing it, and generally the talk is vile. They want to move me out of town, which is shocking, and I don't understand why they seem to hate me so much. So I have spoken to Refuge. They've referred me to surviving economic abuse. I'm talking to Universal Credit when I can during the week and hopefully get his name taken off the Universal Credit. Is there anything else I could possibly do to protect myself? Edit. On the work subject, I found plans between the two of them to restrict my work hours. And we have one more further comment update which they replied to this post. And I got to say, it made me feel ill. They found a WhatsApp group on his phone and they were talking about this way about you behind your back, and then trying to financially control you, financially abuse you, should I say, and were before anyway. But they was trying to take it a step further by, controlling your work hours as well. So you'll likely have less hours and less money, and they'd have more control over you. And I know it sounds horrible in some ways that you're going through all this. It's absolutely a horrible situation, don't get me wrong. But in some ways, I kind of see a small positive, if that makes any sense, that, you're taking the steps to get out of that situation for you and your little one. And I can only see that as a positive in some ways, because otherwise, a huge negative would be if you was to be totally stuck in the situation and stay in that situation, and that'd be a really sad thing. So I think you're doing the best thing possible at this moment, unless you've got family or someone nearby or your friend, to just get out of there immediately and leave. And further comments on this one are just talking about the comment update which I mentioned. So we're going to go to that and we're going to cover that straight away now. Thank you. I'm completely decided on exiting the situation. This is not healthy, and the addition of Esso's mother in the situation makes it especially toxic, especially as he goes to her to talk. She gives advice on how to control the situation. I have to stick my foot down to protect our financials, or to stop my daughter being taken to a pub in the evening on a football match day. So Esso feels things are still not going his way, so leans on his mother, and it's repeating an escalating cycle, and I fear where this will end up. And I need out of this before it escalates any further than it has. There are also a lot of red flags, some like lying about the game. May seem minor, but in the context of agreements we had made, and the involvement of his mother in both hiding the truth from me for their own ends, I consider these part of a bigger picture, hence why I want to get out. There were minor red flags when we first moved to our independent place. I did glaze over these too easily in hindsight, as myself and my friends considered that he had never lived independently of his mother before and he needs to find his feet. Then the baby came and I was ill, so many red flags slipped past me while I was not feeling myself admittedly. I am currently making digital copies of every document that pertains to me or my daughter. Some of them may not be needed, but I will get them all. I am repacking my get out bag. Within the chat I saw pictures that they had found it and destroyed it. Holy moly. Thankfully, they didn't at all seem to think that this was part of a plan to leave, as they found my documents previously packed in my go bag. I had to find them, but I now know where they are and keeping an eye on them. So when I can plan to get out, I can grab them all, hopefully. But with copies now, I'm thankfully covered. Thank you for your post and your help. And I did look into OP's post history on this one to find out if there was any more comments or anything like that, to get a hint of what they did do after that. But unfortunately, there is no more. So we can only hope, unless we get an update in the future, that OP did follow through with their words and exit that situation, get their go bag and go. Because that part where they destroyed OP's get out bag is incredibly worrying to me. Almost like they're trying to keep this person a prisoner in their own house. You can't have that bag to get out of the situation. We're taking that away, so that's not an option for you. You will stay, you will supply these finances, and you will have that joint bank account. You can't leave, sort of thing. God, that made me feel awful thinking about that situation. And just think how alone OP would feel like that, knowing they're having these chats behind OP's back, knowing that's happening, knowing they're destroying things behind OP's back and trying to manipulate her to hand her finances all over to her partner and mother in this case as well. And I know it's completely off, but what was going through my head is one of those weird situations, you see in horror films where there's the matriarch of the household who leads the murderers to do what they want, Red Dragon style stuff. And I know there's no murdering going on in this one, but that's what was going through my head as I was reading it. It's real creeped out by the whole vibe that was going on. Anyway, I would love to know your thoughts on this story and what you think OP should be doing in the situation. Obviously, they should be getting out of there, but it can be incredibly tough for some people who's been in this situation for so long, been, maybe isolated from, again, not saying it's happening, but maybe isolated from people on the outside. So you may not be able to do that immediately like that. But let me know your thoughts on the situation, what you would do, what you would advise. Now, a huge thank you, as always, for joining me today, getting involved in the channel. The Patreon memberships just recently, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. And the YouTube memberships, it hugely helps out. Never expected, of course, though, but just a huge thank you for doing that and for getting involved, clicking that like, watching the videos. I'm blown away every single day by your love and support. Thank you so much, and a huge happy new year, and I hope whatever happens in the next year, I really hope it goes your way. Truly, much love to you.